You're listening to A Creative Excuse presented by Echo Amano. I'm Frank Rose.
And I'm Cara Duvall. This episode is with b.brown, whose solo show opens Friday, September 5th and is on view through September 29th.
B is a ceramic artist living in Santa Fe, and we hosted her first solo show last year. We're very excited to share this new body of work.
In this episode, we talk about B's creative journey from dance to ceramics, the gifts in figuring it out yourself, and the importance of discipline.
Thanks for listening.
Really fun.
So I made
Really
that
fun.
face because on Monday night we were at my folks' house, and my mom was talking about how my dad doesn't want her to go down in the basement. Like the basement is his area.
Oh,
And
it's
so
like you're not invited.
you're not
it's not
invited.
Like I'm
So,
worried
like,
about you going down the
No,
stairs.
I don't think
here.
so. No, but the thing is so he won't like install hand railing.
Oh, okay.
Right? If he did, she could go down into the basement. And then I said it's like that Tom Waits song. And so I played for my mom and Frank's mom the What's He Building?
Oh, what's he building?
What's he building?
Oh, good.
Is
That's Frank's Wild Years? Is that the
No,
album?
from Mule Variations.
Oh, fantastic.
My first Tom Waits was Frank's Wild Years, and it was. I'm sure it's because of my name in some form or fashion.
Oh, sure.
But I was working a summer up in Alaska, and when I was up there, I was 11, 12, 13, and all the employees are like seasonal employees, usually from college, taking a summer. And so they were all older than me, and I had all, got introduced to all the bad stuff. But anyway, one of the employees,
All the good bad
Tom
stuff.
Waits?
bad. Well, I'm thinking more like drugs and alcohol, but but this one particular employee was like, turning me on to music, and he was like,
Very cool.
"Have you heard of Tom Waits?" And I'm like, 12. I'm like, "No, I've never heard of Tom." So he gave me Frank's Wild Years,
Oh.
and I listened to it a lot, even though I didn't quite get it.
Sure.
I was like,
sure.
there's something here. And I listened to
Oh
it. I'm
my
like,
God.
kind of feeling cool because I'm listening to it,
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was my first
Oh,
intro.
yeah. I mean, the depth of everything, even when it's the silliest Tom Waits.
Totally.
There's heart and soul
Totally.
and nuance and all the double entendre and all of that, right? So I think, at any age, because I was in single digits still. And thinking he was an old black man as well, by the way. Like, I remember having a moment of being like,
Yeah.
wait, that's Tom Waits?
Yeah.
Well, Frank introduced me to Tom Waits when I was 18 years old.
Cool.
And I think
With
that,
Frank's Wild Years?
yes,
Okay,
but also
that's the starter one.
Mule Variations. And I think, strangely, that song, What's He Building?
Yeah.
Was the one that hooked me. Like, really, because it was just
It's very
this
theatrical.
It is,
whole-
totally. You could do a dance to that
I
one.
mean, yes. Yes.
You said as much the other night.
I sure
yeah,
did, yes.
Yeah, you could choreograph to that for real.
I was like, and
do all those like overlays and just play with all your soundscape stuff and just
and it also, I mean, it really made me think of just like conspiracy theory and how like gossip and all the things and how these stories get, because when you listen to the lyrics, it's like, okay, it's just a guy. He's just he's like just building something down in the basement, but
What's that tune he's always humming? So my first celebrity sale was to Tom Waits.
no.
Yeah, we're back at Form and Concept.
That's cool.
They were filming. It was a Coen Brothers.
My mom was in it.
Oh, was she?
Yeah, she was
that's
here in
awesome.
town at the time.
It
And
was
then
the
that's when I got to meet him.
Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Yeah,
Buster
yeah, yeah.
Scruggs. Was that right? Is
Yeah,
that
Buster Scruggs. Yeah.
That's not a real person.
No, no.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
he came in and I kind of recognized him because I mean he looked like he did as like the prospector, like crazy ass bleached beard,
Yeah.
like his
Craggy
clothes were
as all
dirty.
get out.
He came in and I was like, is this a homeless guy? Like, what's going on? And then he was clearly like looking with intent, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, interesting. like, maybe not. And then I kind of started to recognize, and I'm like, that guy kind of looks like Tom Waits. And then he started looking at like rings and asked one of my coworkers to look at rings. And then we were working with Wesley Anderegg over there, and you can see why he might be interested. So he gravitated towards this little Barker guy.
Oh, okay.
And he ended up buying that and some rings. And he comes up to the counter, and he gives me his credit card, and he's like, "Need to see ID?" And I was like, "Yes, please." So he gave me his driver's license, and I was like, "Yep, that's Tom Waits. How cool." And then I said, "You have any shows coming up?" He said, No shows. Got shooting a Coen Brothers movie. Oh, yeah. And just real shy, you know. But it was cool.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet, yeah.
Frank texted me. He's like, Tom Waits.
I mean, I had the same thing. My mom's like, she sent me a picture. She's like, look, because they were in the overlap, so they weren't in the same segment. Because he's on solo in his segment.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But they got to meet, and I was like, oh my god,
Yeah.
like of all the ones,
Yeah.
he's tops on the
I've
list.
listened to you since I was 5.
Exactly.
And then one of the other guys from that movie came in. He was also in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And he was the squirrel guy.
The squirrel guy.
It was like, squirrel? What's a fresh squirrel?
It's not the one he worked. Is it Timothy Blake?
Tim Blake Nelson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He works with them
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, he was real sweet.
Yeah.
But
Nice.
Yeah, I'm
That's
jealous.
fun.
Frank has way more celebrity sightings.
well,
than
Martha gets
I.
them all now.
Yeah.
Because like anytime they come in now, I'm gone. So what's his name? Guillermo del Toro came and bought some stuff.
Nice.
And then Matthew McConaughey came in, but he was like total like, don't talk to me.
Until.
Well, it's so funny because
Did he
like
buy?
no, he came in with his wife, and Martha's like, let me know if you need any help, and he's like, will do, you know, and then walked around and left. But she texted Drew and was like, hey, guess who came in? And so Drew was like, I'm gonna go find him. So he's like so outgoing. So he left the museum and like found him on the plaza.
Really?
And was just like, hey, I just wanted to say I'm a big fan. If you ever want to come in and get a private tour of the museum, I'm your man. And he's like, oh, thank you very much. You know? But he'll go up to anybody
Really?
and talk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. My only sighting was Daniel Craig
Okay.
up at the Waves.
Yeah.
I checked him in. I didn't even know who he
Oh,
was.
right.
My coworker told me. They're like, that's Daniel
Yeah.
Craig. That's James Bond.
And you're like, who?
Like, oh.
Haven't seen those movies.
Yeah.
That's good.
So funny.
All right. Well, see, so you
Yeah.
have your fair share.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
we also have had the sighting of B.brown in our presence multiple times.
Many times
Well, I put
a
my hand in
year.
front of the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the sighting.
Here's the sighting. Can you see? Can you see me?
So you listened to an episode or so.
I did. Yeah.
So, you know, we're loosey-goosey. You know, we
Okay.
can go wherever. But since this is your first time on here, maybe we can, like, just talk a little bit about, like, your background and with a sort of magnet on creativity.
Okay.
Like, where
Yeah.
creativity is coming into your life and how you're playing with that. You know, so...
Because I definitely don't have the roster of shows that Taryn
Well,
has,
yeah.
where he's
I
just
mean,
like, this and this and this and
I
this.
think
was
that's
like,
that's a really
wow.
interesting part of your story, though.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
know,
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think so.
You
Okay.
have a whole other life before this.
This is true.
Yeah.
This is true.
That informs this work.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you grew up around creative people.
I did.
Your parents, your family.
Yeah. It's multi-generational.
Yeah.
Like my grandparents were actors
Okay.
as well.
Your grandparents too.
And all extended family, aunts, uncles. And I used to say, if they're not actors, they're musicians. If they're not musicians, they're writers. If they're not writers. So, yeah.
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 All in the film biz.
Film, theater.
Film and
theater,
theater.
television.
And yeah.
Yeah. The full works there.
So you're no stranger to the camera.
Oh, but I hate it so very much. so very, very much. There was a brief moment after high school when I left dance, and I was like, well, maybe I'll act. And I went on one audition, and I was like, no, this is not for me.
Yeah.
Well, I did see you have an IMDb page.
Oh, because I worked film production for 3 years. And so, yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that. In some respect, only because data is just making its way to those things without my even trying, right?
Right. If credits, they probably just pump it in there.
Yeah.
Did you find that that was not a real explicit draw towards that art form?
It's a love-hate.
Yeah.
It's a love-hate. So I loved dancing. I wanted to be a dancer professionally. I was a dancer, but I wanted to do it professionally. I had total tunnel vision towards that through, again, single digits from like 5 to 20, let's say. And then crashed and burned hard because New York ate me up in a way that is still hurts sometimes and still resounds. So that in terms of like where to funnel one's creativity and work out a lot of stuff, if you are a creative being, it's going to find its way somewhere else, I think, right? There's a great moment in fame, which I went to fame school, which everyone called it. No one who went there called it that, right? But I went there, and there's a great line in the film where a girl gets kicked out of the dance department, and she's like suicidal for 3 seconds, and you see her inching towards the subway car,
yes,
right? And everyone's like, "Oh my god!" And then cut to her, and she's like, "Fuck it, I'll join the acting department."
Yeah,
right. And so I'm not saying that's what happened to me, but I do believe that impulse of like, if I'm being told I can't do this, then there's going to be a way to get out what I need to express in some other way, shape, or form. And so there's that first, and then there's getting through high school, having a brief moment of being enrolled in NYU for a month. And then going, I'm not ready for this. And I went to Los Angeles, and I was just kind of hanging out. I was really forlorn and not knowing. And my dad just said to me, well, while you're hanging out, we're going to put you to work. And it's because he had a production company at the time. And so I started off as a PA, and then I moved into assisting producers and directors. And all the while, I was sussing things out. And there was a while where I was really interested in directing. There's a while where I thought about editing. So I was considering it because I do have a love for that field and that industry. But I also, the politics of being on set, the politics of being part of a crew, the hierarchies that exist, the forgivenesses that are given to people who are badly behaved at the time, because we're now talking late 80s, early 90s, like Black women were barely a thing on a film set, let alone anyone who could actually get an above the line job. My dad was maverick in that sense that he was producing and directing as a Black person in that time, but one of a handful. So it felt like, if I sign up for this, it's more of the same coming out of the dance world. And I didn't have a thick enough skin. So I did that for 3 years, and then found myself in a really funky little college in Vermont where a cousin was going, and my middle sister. And it was just this moment of convergence where we all ended up there together. We didn't necessarily plan it, but it was timing. And pardon me. And what
was the college?
Goddard.
Okay.
Yeah, which I don't believe exists anymore. It had a pedigree in sort of alternative, progressive, kind of roll your own. The teachers were called facilitators. You would give an idea for a class and see if anyone else wanted to get in on that. And then if enough people wanted to do it, it was a class. And then you could you could join in selecting the curriculum, the books of the curriculum, and create the curriculum. And so it worked to a degree. I was an old freshman, if you will, at 22, I think at the time. I'd already lived out of my parents' house since I was 14. There was a level of it being not enough for me, even though I'm self-directed. You know, so I had a moment where my cousin was like, I'm really into this ceramics class. Sign up for that one next semester. And I did, and I never left the studio. And I took it over too. It had been in huge neglect. There were tons of bags full of old dry stock that was just a gold mine with regard to materials that had been sitting there since the 70s that no one was paying attention to, no one could care about. The teacher was more on an adjunct level, so she was coming in and a great teacher, but not there full time. There was nothing geared towards, you're now going to get an art education. You're going to get a liberal arts, hippy dippy, free for all education. And so, yeah, I spent the next 2 years just being there mostly. And yeah, cleaning out, organizing, taking over, and every chance I got, just being at the wheel, getting familiar with firing, opening the kiln, checking it out, walking everything directly to the trash. Like, I wasn't interested in what was coming of it. It was very much about, like, I need to get a grasp of what this skill set is, what this material is, where I can go with it, what it's saying to me, how it responds to me, what are the rules, and then how do I break them all? That's been a huge part of the counterpoint to my work since the get. Like, if I'm told I have to put things together a certain way, I'll do it, and I'll get that down, and then there's a moment where I'm like, okay, and then what happens if I don't? Just because I'm being told. Is that the truth? If always.
Yeah.
No.
I'm curious, did you have that same level of curiosity and passion towards dance and theater? Or did that feel like it was something new for you, that level, that kind of intensity of what is this about? How do I work with this,
Yeah. Well, I think the main sort of what dictates the difference is my age, because I'm taking dance from literally just a joyful 5-year-old, improving and there's no stakes. It's unbridled, full on joy, and one of the only places I ever got it, like in terms of liberation of one's mind, body, and spirit. In a time when I was coming up as a kid, as in this body, the dance studio was the safest, most joyful place I ever experienced. So, and I took that through my experience of then getting to high school, and the stakes got super real and super big, and the world of dance was super fucked up, if I may say, and the mold that the only mold that anyone was being shaped in was not for me. I was talking about this with my kid recently, because I met a woman a few years back, and she had been a dancer and did all these crazy, amazing, wonderful experimental theater moments. And I'm like, wait, how do you have that trajectory and I don't? And she's like, I went to Europe. No one said no to me. No one said anything about my body, as long as I could do the steps and contribute to the creative process, which was the other thing, because lurking underneath all of this experience in New York was also this whole thing of like, I'm not dumb. I don't want to play dumb. I may not be the smartest one in the room, but I don't want to play that. So and that's what also was required. It's that whole like shut up and dance thing. And so it was, that's the difference. And I didn't have the guts, nor the fortitude, nor the self-esteem to figure out an alternative. Nor did I have anyone who was, interestingly enough, in my family, full of people who always went their way, no matter if they were being said no to. That's my mother's career, that's my father's career, that's all of them. All of them at some point said, oh, you think this is not for me? I'll show you. But none of them were like, hey, why don't you consider a whole other thing? Like when I said I was done, everyone was like, okay. Right? So
we're behind you. We support that.
Yeah, we love you. We're sad for you if you're sad for yourself. But they were all kind of taking off of my cues, and I went very subterranean. I went very interior. My grief and my mourning were very much my own and experienced not with other people. And so that's the difference in that when I then went to film, there's a little brief kind of insight as to okay, how do I funnel my creativity? And then when I'm getting in that studio, it's this amazing gift because I can be alone in the studio, which I love, but I can also be in community, which I was just beginning to experience. I had a real sort of stunted sense of sociability because I'd spent more of my time by choice in a dance studio with my mouth closed. So interacting with people was painful and weird. And so that beginning of getting to embark in community comfortably, but it's through a commonality, and a love of what we were doing. That's what's then opening the door towards a more a flow of creativity, I guess, to your question around and experimentation and like having the guts or the balls or the what then that guts, whatever it is, right? To go like, hey, what if I don't follow your rule? But again, safe. Right? Because in a dance, I don't know what it is now, but in the dance culture, like, you don't question. You don't show up late. You don't question. You don't have a mind. You are a body. You are an instrument. You don't complain. You don't talk about the pain aspect. I think I think it has shifted. And I also think anyone who becomes a star, obviously there's more room for them there. But if you're at ground level, no. So that sense of like, oh, I can be creative, but I can also not feel a lot of shame or apologetic and then I became my own worst critic in many respects, which is true in dance as well, but everyone else is the critic as well. And in that particular setting, because again, I was not in a setting where it was about an art school where there's a lot of competition and people are vying or whatever it is. I was just doing my thing, and then people would walk in and it's like, oh, a conversation is had or not. But whatever the feelings or the sentiment or the exploration or the quandary, it was kind of was like there we had it. On the table,
When you were talking about, it sounds like maybe we had a similar sort of level of support from our parents, maybe.
And I?
Well, it made me relate to this, I think from my mother especially, she pretty much raised me. It was kind of like, very supportive to the point of whatever you want is fine. I just want you to be happy. Which is an amazing gift.
Yes.
And on the other hand, there's a unspoken figure it out for yourself, And so the kind of like focus and discipline has to be self-imposed in my case.
Yeah.
I had to find it. And it sounds like maybe when you entered into ceramics, you were able to grab that kind of like focus and self-discipline, you know, that you were able to sort of bring in on your own consciously.
Yeah. But I will also say that is constitutionally part of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I discipline is something I can do.
Mm-hmm.
And when I put my mind to it, and there is a special enough interest, which is, I know words that are coming up now that we have more understanding of, I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all in. So and you know, the support thing is a really interesting conversation. Parental support. You know, I come from a generation that is now, like, my kids will show me, there are all these memes about Gen Xers and how they're like the feral generation and brought up by wolves, and you know, or the other side is like the benign neglect, and you're like, yeah, it's all of that. Yes, I was on my own all the time. I was parentified from such a young age. I don't remember not being that. I'm the eldest child. I'm the eldest cousin. Like, when I learned to drive, the next day, my mom's putting me in the car with all of my siblings and the cousins, like, you're on your own for the whole summer. Like, figure it out. And in many respects, we are who we are because of that. Like, there is something to be said for, I know how to figure it out.
Yeah.
When I became a single parent, I figured it out. When I have emergency moments and everyone else in the room is spinning and I'm like, okay, you know, the head is cut open. Let's just, you know, 1, 2, 3. Let's just figure this out. So that side of it, right? And then the other side of the coin, which was like, yeah, I was on my own to figure this out at maybe times that are, you know, we can look back and sort of say developmentally is not the most opportune moment to make someone figure it out. But there we are, and we have it.
Yeah.
And then I'll say the one other key factor, I think, is that I was loved.
Yeah.
And I never questioned that. And I know a lot of people who wonder if their parents love them. And I think that extra added thing of, you walk into this house and no matter what dysfunction, no matter what shit show, no matter what alienation, no matter what suppression, depression, whatever all these other negativities are, the undercurrent is we love each other. And that's a huge, huge glue, right?
That might be the thing,
the gluten.
like the difference maker between, you know, how a child responds to, okay, go drive your cousins around for the summer on your own, when you have a support system built in versus if you don't.
Right.
Like how a child takes that and responds to it and grows from it or doesn't.
Right.
That could be the thing.
Yes. And also we all survived it too. So like, then what are you doing with your cousins when you're out on your own and everyone's being feral and you know embraced by their wolf pack? Like, there were so many opportunities to die, literally, and also or experience severe amounts of pain and injury. And we got through it. And there's and you know, my cousins and I are still so close, my siblings and I, you know, so there's that too. There's certainly a that what that builds amongst your people, right? Chosen or not, my tribal affiliation there is really still intact. Yeah.
I think now we should, the alternative name to Gen X should be the figure it out generation.
Totally.
Go figure it out generation.
Yeah. I mean, like, all those things are for entertainment, but then there's this, like, that little thread of truth. And it's hilarious to see all those memes and go like, oh yeah, that's me for sure. For sure.
But, and also, I mean, I think it affords so much freedom that I think kids, I don't know, I'm just making massive generalizations right now, but it doesn't seem like that's afforded as much. You know, we have some friends who have a child, she's 11 maybe.
Yeah.
And they, for whatever reason, they couldn't drive her to school. So she's walking to school, right? Which would be no big deal. when we were growing up.
Right, not at all.
And, you know, other parents would drive by her and go, "Are you okay?
Mm-hmm.
Do you need me
Where's
to drive you?
where are your
Where are your
parents?"
parents?
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
this is a thing, you know?
Right.
You can't do that.
No, you
Whereas
can't.
like, oh my God, when I was 15, I got my first job, which was making chocolate for my aunt.
Yummy.
But the business was literally like 3 or 4 miles away from my house, where you had to cross major streets. And I was like, I'm just walking.
Yeah.
I'm just walking there. And I did.
Gotta get to work.
And it was fine.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
It was totally
and
fine.
And that whole thing, I mean, I think it's usually sort of trotted out as a 50s thing, but in fact, like, I remember, like, oh, it's getting dark. Like, time to turn around now from this wandering, meandering hike that we were on that we don't really know how we got here. So we better start trying to find our way back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And same when I moved to New York. And it's really interesting because I moved there when I was 14, and I did move on my own with regard to not with my parents or the rest of my family. I initially lived there with my grandmother, but very soon I was like, no, I got this, right? And so I was there at a time which now historically, when you look at what like the stats about New York, was the most dangerous time to live in that city.
Yeah.
And I was wandering the streets on my own.
How old
at
were
14.
You? Okay.
15, 16, 17, 8, all of that, right? Bars. I was saying to my family the other day, I never had a fake ID. You didn't need that. You just got in. Yeah. Or not, you know, but you didn't have, there wasn't that obstacle. And I was, again, in probably, not probably, I was in a lot of inappropriate moments. But I also loved every minute of it.
And you figured it out.
And I figured it out.
Yeah.
I figured
and you're still
it
here.
out. And I'm still here.
So you found ceramics in Vermont. And when you were and that was post New York.
That was post New York.
Post New York, okay.
Post working film production.
Okay. So when you finished school, you were.
So I didn't finish.
When you left school.
When I left school after 2 years with going to art school in mind, I had gotten into what used to be called CCAC, California College of Arts and Crafts, which is now, I think they got rid of the crafts part.
Yeah.
Right, which is a whole other conversation for sure. And
because they fully integrated into the art program, right?
Right,
Right.
and crafts are not to be taken seriously. You know, but I got in there, and then there was a big tumult in family dynamics and all this other stuff that's going on, and went back to film production briefly just to make some change and make sure. And then coming out of that, I ended up getting married. And from there, I had my first kid. I was pregnant when I got married, actually. And it wasn't why I got married, but it was a fact. And so then that puts me in this trajectory of parenting while my creative self and my art are always taking a back burner. So and again, you know, at the beginning we were talking about, like, you know, one hole gets plugged up and somewhere the gusher, the geyser of creativity is going to appear. And for many years, it was very much in the family culture that I was creating and cultivating, and it involved a lot of hands-on. My kids were brought up without television, without computers until way down the line. I think middle school is when they had computers. And so the emphasis was on making, and I didn't eat, and then, you know, me doing pinch pots and hiding them under the dining room table and going, like, at least my hands are feeling the material and I'm loving that. And then every other kind of anything I could do with my hands. and I loved and hated it. I mean, that dichotomy of love hate is probably going to reign true throughout my entire life, because as much as I want to give to any one thing is as much as I can't to the other things I want to give to quite often. And so I struggled with it. I struggled with choosing to be at home with my kids for the first few years. There was, coming out of, a very 70s upbringing and whatever anyone was proclaiming with regard to women's rights and feminism. My mom was a huge thing, like I could do and have and be it all. And so the whole idea of opting to stay home for a few years was somewhat against the grain. And I didn't like what it said to that world outside. I hated not being affiliated with work. And my aspirations were huge. But I also wasn't going to have babies that I was going to hand over to other people to bring up. That wasn't why I did that.
Yeah.
And I was very clear about it. And I was fortunate enough to be able to make that choice. And so, yeah, I would take a class at the community college, and then that would be really fun. And I might learn a little thing or two about rigueur firing, or there was all along the way kind of gathering tools to put on the tool belt that, if not coming into play immediately, have certainly come into play now. And that's where I can be like, all right, there was reason for it all. Like the design is on purpose in many respects, even though in my own mental body, I'm like, it wasn't fast enough, good enough, all the stuff where we're like, I want the markers to receive seals of approval. That's not meant to be. Mm-hmm. And so the slow burn and the gathering, the hunting and gathering, if you will, of a skill set adds up over time.
And all your experiences, right? Like your experience as a parent, your experience living in New York, and all those times when we're not actively doing the thing that we think is our purpose.
Absolutely.
It all goes into the pot.
Absolutely.
Like, it creates an influence, and it's like an additive thing, right?
Yes.
Like our experiences, going and figuring it out. That created an experience to make us who we are.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. For sure. And I wouldn't give up having grown my children up, and the relationship I have with them now, it fortifies my creative life beyond. Like I can't even start talking about it, because it's so much that they contribute just by virtue of the questions they ask and the conversations we have and the points they bring, the understanding, because they're both creative people themselves, and so it continues. And yeah, so what more to say about that? I don't know.
It makes me think of choose your own quest. Like there's choose your own adventure, and you're on you're choosing your quest.
Yeah.
And it's almost like the treasure hunt. Right? Life is like the treasure hunt, and you're picking up these things and you're not exactly sure how this is gonna work or what it's gonna inform, but you're like, I need that. I don't know. I need that. And that'll come in handy.
Yeah. I like the treasure hunt.
Yeah.
Analogy.
It seems to me when you were talking about your process that for a while, correct me if I'm wrong, but for a while it had very little to do with showing your work.
No.
It was purely this, again, quest for yourself of learning something deeply.
Sounds like the majority of it.
The majority of it. And I will also say that part of that was my own, well, it's multi-layered. There's not having enough time to develop bodies of work, which is what's necessary. Like when we first met, you saw that I had a skill set, you saw that I had something, but it was also like, now let me go make enough for you to see that I can do this and that there's something there. And so I didn't have the time for that quite more often than not, right? In those developmental years, even though, and then there's also, I became a single parent when my kids were still in their single digits. So that's a whole other thing, right? Where everything is about survival at that point. Every move I make, and it has nothing to do with how creative I get to be. And if I got to be. And I managed, but it eked in.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, it also where that, I mean, this is a sideline, but where that ended up was back in body stuff, because at a certain point I dove back deeply into yoga and movement, and so I was teaching and I was doing all this stuff that I never thought I would, and was terrified of. That was like a big moment of hitting my 40s and going like, I'm not gonna let my fear dictate my choices. So when I was in a class and my teacher was like, you're a teacher. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm a forever student. And they're like, no, you're a teacher. And I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean? And she's like, well, take the training. And I took the training as a challenge to myself. And then I got through it and they're like, and now you're on the schedule. And I was like, wait, what? So it was really terrifying and challenging. And where it's a moment of re-entering my body. I feel like a lot of those years were me having left and dropped into a survival mode. And because I wasn't present, I wasn't going to be able to output. If that's making some sense. Yeah. And then came back in. And then came my kids growing up enough that they're more on their own than not. And then came the moment where I moved here and there was a huge medical crisis with my son. And it was like, oh, why? Maybe that's the only reason I'm here. I sold all my equipment. I was like, me and Clay on speaking terms. I don't know if it's ever going to happen. I can't call myself an artist because I'm not in a studio 24/7 making work. And the shift that happened, I mean, I guess it was COVID.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I got gifted a studio space, and it was like, I can't say no to that.
This was with Rachel.
To this. No, this was with Jonathan Boyd first.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, where initially he had and where Kimmy, I'm forgetting her last name, but Whiskey and Clay. Right, so she had a space there and was letting me come in and work there every now and again. And then she moved on, and then there was a brief moment where nothing was happening. And then Jonathan offered me this space in between his workshop and the retail. And then COVID happened. And I was like, oh, wow, I guess I'm going to get a kiln. And I just, I had the money, I had time, there was like literally no excuse. There was no way I could, really do a number with regard to the self-sabotage moment of here are all the reasons why I can't accept or do, or why I'm not legitimate enough or worthy enough or, I don't know, facile enough with whatever all of the things. Yeah. And so and then I think the grace that came in around that scenario was first saying to myself, you know what, I've always been interested in glass. It's actually what I wanted to do when I got to CCA. My plan was to get in through ceramics and do a double major with glass, because I've always been interested and always wanted to blow glass. And so I had taken a couple classes at Bullseye and kind of figured out the basics, and I got a kiln that can fire both. So in the back of my mind, I was like, let me be able to fire clay, even though I don't think I'm ever doing that again, ever. And I'll play with glass. And it was that. It was play. It was play, and it was inquiry, and it was like satisfying so many questions and so much curiosity, so much beginner's mind, just fueling, and I hadn't felt a kind of creative fuel that way in a really long time. And then the extra added thing of like opening the kiln and every time was a smile, because it's pretty.
Hey,
right?
Yeah.
Glass, you're just like, it's pretty.
Shiny.
Like, it's
Look at the
shiny,
light.
it's colorful.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's a piece of shit, it's pretty.
Yeah.
And
Delight.
it was just so fun for me. I mean, I would show people, they'd just be like,
That's so great.
I mean, I didn't care what they thought. There's zero stakes. But also those juices started flowing. And then there was a moment where I was like, I'm going to buy a box of clay. And then I was on my way, I think, in terms of re-upping with the material and the that moment where I was like, oh no, there's something that needs to happen here. I'm not done. And then I lost that space for 6 months and was looking around, and that was a little weird. Like, just as I was getting going, it's like, and then Rachel. And Rachel offering that space has been a godsend, and she is the earth angel by which it has been sent. Her generosity is beyond, and we really click as well, which is great to have a studio mate who's awesome and wonderful. And we just kind of sunk up because there was one other person involved, and then they fell out, and then it was just like, hey, this is working. And then I got to the point where I was almost a daily practice, almost there every day. And now we're back to discipline, right? So when the discipline of a practice comes in and you can't imagine not doing it, then you're on the other side of that valley of feeling gutted and like you've got nothing. And I've experienced that multiple times over with other things, but very specifically, that thing of like, I go to work. I go to work every day. And that is getting to my studio, and I'm fortunate enough to be able to set the time and like it's very free floating, but it happens all the time now, and all the supplemental sort of part-time stuff then gets to that gets to be the back burner, that gets to be the backup, that gets to be the thing I say yes to once I've fulfilled all the other stuff that I want to get done and feel really sated in that realm. So the depletion cessation equation flips on itself, and all of a sudden, there's the fuel of the creativity, and then going and waiting tables or making signs or building cabins with my boss and all this sort of stuff. That's I don't know, that just helps. That's the supplement. Yeah.
When you were talking about, we worked together briefly at the cafe, and, like you said, I knew you made things. Yeah. Right. And I saw some of them. And it made me think back to the difference in my reaction to seeing that and to seeing once you had kind of gone through that process of discipline. So it's like, on the one hand, like I remember it's like, oh, these are really cool. These are neat. Yeah. I like these. To, oh, this says something. Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's like training and honing your voice in a way that was like iterative, right? You're working in these iterations of a vision, of an insight, of something that you want to bring out of yourself, right? And that was happening with the one or two or three things that I saw before. Right. But when you're not going in every day and like practicing, failing, succeeding, you don't have the opportunity to find the statement or the paragraph or whatever, right? It's like, this says something now. Yeah, and I remember, what I remember about our working together is that you were very gracious in the dynamic, because you had just walked out of a situation that was where you were
the lead,
Mm-hmm.
and then we're in this, service industry moment where it's all like what it is, right? As well as then it was a newer thing for you. So we were in this dynamic of like, yeah, we're feeling it out together, and you're very willing to learn, and then you're like, I want to make my own. I'm like, yeah, you and me both, brother. Like, like, yeah, we all. And then you walked in like a month and a half later, and you're like, I found the space, and I was like, wait a minute, this guy's for real. And then from there, you genuinely asked to see my work, which is that other step is rarely taken. I've had it once before, because this harkens back to what you were saying about like the dry spell, because I had a gallery represent me for a minute, very briefly, for like a year, and then the woman who owned the space passed away. And so as quickly as that arrived is as quickly as it fell away. And I had no leverage to make that anything than a blip. So there was with you making that very genuine offer of like, I want to see your work, I was very surprised, because I come out of New York and LA where those platitudes are so empty usually, right?
Let's get lunch.
Yeah.
Totally. So you came over and saw my space, and you were very kind about it, and essentially said that there's something here, and also made a suggestion, which was really lovely, like that whole additive, constructive, like let's have something come out of this meeting and not just have it end on a flat line. And it was really sweet, and left me thinking, I guess, enough that you are someone I wanted to continue to work with on a creative level if it ever came to pass.
Yeah.
But it did not necessarily put me, in fourth gear, just like, we're going now, right? It took a minute.
Yeah.
And in fact, it took about 5 years between that visit
Uh-huh.
and my calling you and saying, I have work to show you.
Yeah.
And what led up to that was almost a year in the studio, every day, finding the statement, finding the thread, finding the language, not just being a pot maker, but now I have a body, and I have there's something happening here that I think I can share with the world and stand behind. Because there's a lot of stuff that I made. I've told you this over and over again. More of my work has made it into the trash than anywhere else. So there's a lot of work that I have made that I was not willing to stand behind as well. Back to your point of like this stop and start, and it's not. I never felt that I could call myself a thing if I wasn't creating and doing and being and had something to show for that thing that I was calling myself. That's my hang up. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's how I felt.
I love, though, that the thing that ushered you back in was just complete delight with glass.
Yeah.
That
right?
had none of that
exactly.
attached to it.
Exactly.
I was thinking, I was like, that's so interesting that glass, which is so hard to master, which is so just moody, right?
Yeah.
You're like, I don't care. I just want it to be pretty. And I don't care. But that was like that was the entry point back into your relationship with clay, which is so intense and disciplined. Again, disciplined and like exacting.
And there's almost there's a lot more critique interiorly around my work with clay than with glass. Like I could let the stuff that I was making in glass go and even give it a whirl at a market and sell well and have that moment, but not necessarily go home in some sort of shame spiral where I'm like, oh, I'm not really an artist, this is all bullshit. And then because that was a lot of the undercurrent of inner monologue. And so it freed up. It freed up the space to then have clay come back online for me in a way that was way more friendly too. Like, let me not be so violent with myself. And, you know, and the other interesting thing I will say about the timing, because 2020, COVID for sure, what that did communally for sure, but in terms of my own personal life, it was a reckoning. There was so much going on around, you know, BLM, my own personal identity stuff, so many things coming and going and shedding, and that it is also part of that, of all that processing that helped to then make room for me to be kinder enough to myself to then hear what Clay had to say to me again. You know, in many respects, it's like, oh, I don't know if we're on speaking terms. Well, maybe Clay was always talking to me. It's just that you're not willing to hear it or able to at the time. And so whatever that shift was of really just raking through the muck.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's interesting to think just about the timeline, and thinking about how Clay first came to you after you left the dance world and after you left the film world, which is so, like you said, it's beautiful. There's many things that are beautiful, and there's so many things that are toxic, and there's so many things that are just, like, I'm going to shred you.
Yeah.
And then to think about, like, how much did that inform, like, what you were carrying that with you with your first introduction to Clay, that kind of mindset. And then to go through all of the raising children and letting go of certain identities and going through survival, and then to come back to it through again, something that's like, I just want to delight. And how that can like maybe shifted, you know, like you were different, like you said.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's definitely the gift, I think, of you know, making a certain age and living a certain amount of life, and you know, you go through various amounts of reviews, and Saturn returns, and whatever you think it is that is informing these moments of real pivotal decision making, if you will. You know, I also, like, I remember at a certain point, I think I was like 35. Yeah, my marriage was falling apart. There's all this other stuff. And I remember saying to people, like, I want to live my life instead of my life living me. So that there's that moment. Then there's the hitting 40 and going, like, I don't want my fears to make my decisions for me. And so there's these declarative moments that are all within the day to day. So it's not as if I'm living for, like, from one motto to another. I can pull these out and they kind of highlight, and yeah, the highlight moment of 2020 and beyond, and then a return to, I mean, I think if I went through the distillation process with this whole thing, it's the return to body always. Always. Clay is body, earth is body. How one moves it and how one moves one's body to move it, like, all of that involves this corpus. And so there is something about my assignment here in this lifetime about needing to return to that. Like, that is where I reset. That is how I regulate. That is how, when everything else outside of my studio windows is doom and gloom and horror and nightmare, I go there and I can find refuge and the sacred, and a level of communing with other people one-on-one that is really important, and how I sustain. You know, so yeah, that return, if I look at it, makes a lot of sense. Even while feeling in the middle of all of it, like, I'm being kept away, and I can't, and I don't, and I won't, and I shan't, and, you know, all these things, which is, you know, sometimes can be chalked up to a, a more youthful self, sometimes circumstantial, like you're parenting someone, you got to show up. Sometimes under the more informed eyes of a middle-aged person who is experiencing what it is to give permission to oneself to be and do and say and feel all the things that they are.
Yes. I'm gonna snap my fingers now.
Snap
those fingers.
So that's a perfect place to pivot.
Okay.
I don't think we need to go to any of our softballs.
No, not at all.
So if we could just spend a few minutes on the new body of work.
Okay.
So you had a show with us. For some reason, I thought it was last year.
It was.
Was it last year?
It was January. It was January of 24.
24. Okay.
So it's been a year and 8 months by the time the second one comes around. Yeah.
So, in looking at that body of work and this, there is a thread. Mm-hmm. You can see it's your work. Mm-hmm. Can you maybe put some words to what the journey was from that body of work to this one? Because it's different, but it's you.
Right. And I was trying to do that. And I struggle with that because I spent the better part of this year and a half being in my studio, making a lot of work. I can't show for it much. Like you walk into my studio, it's an interesting moment. It was like, what did I get up to in this time? Well, a lot of it was I was trying to get grants and applying to residencies and going off and being in some and then taking care of family. So there's reasons why it took me so long to focus. But when I finally did, which is more around the spring, I'd say, where I made some pots with a different clay body, not the red, and something was there. And there was something enough there that was same, but different. And I had been struggling with how much do I try to hold to a signature or create a signature, not even hold to one, create one, right? Because number 2 is going to be where that gets revealed or known, or you see it automatically or you don't. Mm-hmm. It's either a complete 180 pivot and now I'm one of those artists who you never know, or do I keep in my thread of flow this notion of, but there's a signature to be created, and I don't want to be held to it. I don't want it to lock down, but I did think it was important to sort of say, yes, b.brown continues in a vein that still works, and so. And this also gets back to me as well. Like I've been thinking so much this year about the crafts versus fine art conversation, and I have no conclusions. I feel like it's unfair, and I feel like that the reason for it is more about commodification than anything else. And I don't like clubs. It's another reason why I didn't stay in Hollywood, and so it's hard for me. And I've even had people in this year say to me, you're going to have to decide whether you're one or the other. And here we are back in the dance thing where it's like, well, you have to decide.
One or the other, art or craft?
Yeah. Right? So these are the things that were running through the creative process and possibly contributing to why there was a lot of kind of incohesion in the beginning of the and that was also intentional. There was a moment where I was like, I just want to play. Mm-hmm. I mean, the sales are still good. I'm feeling all right about taking this time. I'm just gonna play a little bit. And I had done some truly experimental stuff in the residency in New York that I would still like to explore. That has zero to do with what you have seen here. So that lives in me. But I also don't know exactly how to approach it or what that entails, because that you know, that sort of art school, graduate school practice of how to speak to one's work and then become the conceptual enough to become considered fine art enough to then be able to experiment within your own offerings is, yeah, right. It's so it's a lot. It's a lot to consider, and it can be heavy, or I can just drop it out the door and go in and make. So I guess that's a really long-winded way of saying this work then comes from a very intense, I'd say, 10-week period, you know, where I spend a lot of time in this year going, I have a year. I've got time. I'm gonna, like, it's going to come and it's going to flow, and I mean, if nothing about the last 30 years has manifested around work practice, it's that I can work fast if I need to. Like, I have that confidence, you know. So at a certain point in April, May is when it kind of hit, like, you really have to focus here. It's really time. And I was spinning for a while. And then when it dropped in, thankfully it dropped in, and then the fun of this is that I'd say, so it's 13 pieces, right? 14 made in total, 13 making it to the show, with a theme of 3 that were the precursors. So obviously there's a through line there, and I was making, hence part of why the name of the show being Rondo is I was making in the round, because there was this sense of I need to make this happen fast. I can't indulge in time right now. And it was really fun. I mean, I had everything set up at my big work table, and I was going around. And so at a certain point, everything, the thematics were about contortion and feeling like constriction of the outside world and politics, and how that literally felt in my body and in my nervous system. So there was, I think that was coming out of the shapes. There was these big extra directional changes that are very stressful to the clay, that I was just like, I want to see if it can remain intact, if it can make it through the drying stage, if it can make it through the firing stage, if it can make it while being under all this stress. And
is that not a metaphor?
right? Precisely, which was not necessarily fully developed. It's what was developing. And then there, part of it is also revisiting other shapes, because I was also being conscious, like the first show was all about cylinder, all about straight up and down walls. Like, how do you take this most simple shape and tell a story or create a being of vitality, a piece that holds vitality enough to hold interest? Because a cylinder is a cylinder is a cylinder, right? And then this one was more consciously like, I want to show off a little bit more of my skills. I want to go round again, because I love round and curvy. And then the discs became the signature, if you will. They're the carry through, but it's like refine, because a lot of those precursor pieces, I went lots. You can see on all those black body pieces, there was lots of them. And then I was like, now we go one. And now we go one, and we're trying to challenge gravity. And we're trying to see, again, if that can survive a firing. I had to build interiors to hold pieces up. And then I had to spend on one piece, like a week and a half, getting that substructure out of there. So that was a new experience for me. I had to figure out how to fire pieces. Many of the double walls were fired upside down because they have that disc, but I also have weight. So I had to build things in the kiln to support all this, and I'd never done that before. That's all from a notion, and I'm like, okay, kiss that up to God and hope. right? And yeah, and then so that's what creates the body. And then in the end, I just kept seeing. Well, I had two moments. I had two people walk in at the making stage and go like, "They're so fabulous in this raw state." And I'm like, "I know. I that's my favorite too. I love them at that leather hard state. There's a little more richness." And you feel that it's still alive. Like it's alive post firing, I think, but it's different. It's dialed down. You have to pay more attention. When it's just leather hard, it's out. It's all out. It's still very, all those elements are still very much in the tactile. Mm-hmm. You know, you feel the water in it because it feels cold. You feel that there's the earthiness of it. And so out of that then came this idea of like, okay, so maybe I don't have to lose my mind on trying to create a palette, because I struggle with that a lot. I thought a lot of this year was going to be about glaze development, and it wasn't. And I haven't gone there yet, and I don't have confidence there yet. And I really know what I want, and I don't know how to get it. So hence then turning back to the paint and using the oils and letting that drop into the clay body and have this relationship that's more sort of earth inspired, but and then bringing in somewhat of a slightly different element, which is an oil-based substance, which isn't usually in conversation with clay. I mean, obviously it's not maverick. It's not been done, but I think it's expected in many. Again, here we are, like craft fine art, right? That you have your glazes dialed in, and that you can guarantee that they will always stay the same. And I can't say that about these. The oil continues to dry, the clay continues to pull it in. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. I've already watched them change in many respects. They've gone from super glossy to now in some places they're matte. And I like that there's that some of it is now out of my control. You know, and anyone who's going to sign up for one will have to like that too. You know?
Also, I love that because it brings back what you were saying about what you love about the leather hard stage, and that it's still alive. And in some ways you could say they're still alive because they're still changing.
Exactly.
Yeah. They're not in their final form. Yeah.
Precisely. And even though, you know, fired clay can last, as we know, for thousands of years, it is still ultimately something that will return to earth. Like it is a biodegradable substance. It just can take a really long time unless you crush it up and help it go along, right? So yes, that's also an aspect of clay that I've always loved, is that there is a sense, even while the politics of being adjacent to an extractive material now more than ever is there's still a little bit of a like, but it can go back. It is still earth. And that part can't be negated from that conversation, which I think is going to be really important coming coming along and in the world of fine art very specifically, because all these materials have always been claimed to be natural. Yeah, they are, but they come from the earth. You don't have any of it without earth.
I feel like an excited student being like, teacher, because when you were describing what inspired this body of work, I was like, that's what I thought. I was looking at them and I go, they look like heavenly bodies, like in precarious balance. Like gravity is stressing the fuck out of them. And yet they're still standing. They're still like in this balance.
And there's a few that are really, really on the edge of, and you know, I kind of, you know, the little bugger in me kind of likes that like I had another piece long time ago and in the studio, and I set it up. It was on a point, much like these guys back there, larger. And I set it up just on these couple of blocks. And so the majority of the pot was actually free floating. It made everyone nervous who walked in there. Like, is that going to be okay? And I'm like, I put it there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's this, it's like strange because there's this weight and there's this integrity and like, yeah, like presence to them. And yet there's also this like, ooh, are they going to fall?
Are they going to fall? Are they going to collapse?
Yeah.
And you see that. Like, I know how I built that. And that shape has come about more exaggeratingly because of the firing. So there are moments where the firing takes these out of control, and that's because of the way they were built and because I was pushing it and because I was building in stress. And so that's a conversation now happening between me and process where I'm less in control and more in that space of like, ooh, what's going to happen? And that's a really fun place to operate from. It's not necessarily not exhausting or worrying. I didn't sleep a lot in the time I was making this. I was tossing and turning a lot and puzzling all the particulars and like, will this work? Will this work was the question for those 10 weeks straight. Almost, that was just, there was a lot of anxiety around it, but it was like, but if it does work, oh my goodness, there could be something here. And so then, yeah, and then it comes out and every firing was successful, which was, I mean, an amazing moment. Because I've definitely had moments where I thought, fine. And, you know, that's the heartbreak part of ceramics is you can be super cocky and be like, I know how to do this. I've done this 1,000 times. It not even that, it'll just be like this little crack, but then you watch it still grow and whatever it is, it's just like, oh my God, you gotta be kidding me. And I have funny things. There's little like Easter egg moments in these too, because you may have noticed I would think that I got every disc like completely cleaned out. Come to find out one little piece of clay would drop in there, and now the things shake like a rattle, and you think, oh, is it broken? No, it's fully intact. It's just got this little
just got
bead.
Sound element.
It does. And that was very intentional.
Yes, I meant for that.
Oh yes. Well, B, I feel like we could continue for another hour, but I think it's about time to wrap up.
Are we good? Do we get it?
We got it.
We got it. We got it.
You are
Yay.
a delightful guest because you just go and you've got a lot to say, and you say it with your work as well. And I'm really excited to open the show and to keep working with you, and it's been a lot of fun so far.
Thank you. Couldn't have happened without you. You opened the door for me in so many major ways. So my gratitude will always be flowing in your direction for that.
Thank you.
And by extension to you.
Yes.
And yay. Here we go. Number 2. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
All right.
Okay.